Welcome to Geopolitics Explained, the channel where we cut through the noise and give you the real picture of how power works in the world. Today, we're diving into one of the most debated questions in modern geopolitics. If the United States and China ever came to blows in a conventional war, who would actually win? Not according to Hollywood, not according to political talking points, but according to hard facts, military data, and the assessments of people who've spent their careers studying this. What you're about to hear might surprise you. It might even challenge everything you thought you knew about American military dominance. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. It operates over 750 bases across the globe, and has fought more wars in the last 30 years than any other nation on Earth. By almost every conventional metric, it is the most powerful military force in history. And yet, in every single Pentagon war game simulating a conflict with China, the United States loses. Every single time. That's not my assessment. That's straight from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, speaking on record. So today, we're going to break down the 7 core reasons why the United States military, despite its size, its budget, and its global reach, would be defeated in a conventional war with China. Let's get into it. The first and most fundamental reason is geography. China has no interest in projecting military power across the world. It has a single overseas military base, in Djibouti. Compared to America's 750, its entire military doctrine is built around one thing: defending its own territory and surrounding waters. That means any conflict would almost certainly take place off the coast of China, in the South China Sea or the East China Sea. China would be fighting a defensive war on its doorstep, against a force that has to travel across the largest ocean on the planet just to show up. The Pacific Ocean covers 1/3 of the Earth's surface. US ships would need nearly 2 weeks just to cross it. Supply lines for ammunition, repairs, and reinforcements would be stretched across thousands of miles. Meanwhile, China would be launching air and naval operations from ports and airfields just minutes from the front line. Before the first shot is fired, China already holds a massive structural advantage. But let's say the US fleet makes that 2-week crossing. It still can't get anywhere near China because of hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles travel at over Mach 5, more than 3,800 miles per hour. They can maneuver mid-flight, making them nearly impossible to intercept. And with modern satellite targeting, they can hit within meters of their intended target. China has developed specific variants, known as carrier killers, designed to destroy aircraft carriers from thousands of miles away. The aircraft carrier has been the foundation of American power projection for 80 years. In a conflict with China, it becomes a slow-moving multi-billion-dollar target. We've already seen a preview of this dynamic, not from China, but from Iran, a far less sophisticated military. Within the first days of the conflict in the Middle East, Iran used drones and missiles to strike US bases across multiple countries, destroy radar systems, take out naval rearming stations, and knock out 4 of the 8 THAAD missile defense batteries in the region. Batteries that cost billions of dollars, hit by weapons costing tens of thousands. Even then, the THAAD systems intercepted less than 10% of the more advanced incoming rockets. Now scale that up to China's arsenal. Both in technology and sheer volume, US bases in Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines would be inoperable within hours of conflict beginning. Aircraft carriers would never reach striking distance. The US simply could not get to the fight. Even setting aside hypersonic missiles for a moment, China's raw naval capacity is staggering. The US still leads in total naval tonnage, largely because of its 11 aircraft carriers. But as we've just covered, those carriers are liabilities in this conflict, not assets. When you measure naval strength by number of warships, China leads the world by a significant margin. And these aren't outdated ships. China's fleet is purpose, built for the 21st century, focused on submarine hunting, electronic warfare, and drone deployment. Many American vessels, by contrast, are decades old and designed for the kind of operations conducted in Iraq and Afghanistan. Not a peer adversary conflict. But the most decisive naval factor isn't what's in the water right now. It's what gets built during the war. China's shipbuilding capacity is over 200 times greater than that of the United States. The US Navy builds 3 to 4 ships per year. China builds 8 to 12 per month during peacetime. In a wartime scenario, that production would accelerate dramatically. A damaged US warship would have to sail back across the entire Pacific to San Diego for repairs, a journey that takes weeks, followed by months in a shipyard with insufficient capacity. A damaged Chinese warship returns to port in hours. The attrition math alone makes this war unwinnable for the United States. The war in Ukraine has made one thing absolutely clear to every military analyst in the world. Drones have transformed modern warfare. And in the drone domain, China is in a league of its own. China controls nearly 2/3 of the global civilian drone market. Companies like DJI dominate internationally because no competitor can match their quality at that price point. This civilian production infrastructure can be rapidly converted to military applications, and the technology already is being converted, as we've seen in Ukraine with modified commercial drones being used by both sides. China has also unveiled drone mothership prototypes capable of autonomously deploying hundreds of attack drones simultaneously. They've developed submersible naval drones that can hunt submarines without human operators. In terms of production capacity, technological depth, and cost efficiency, the United States cannot compete in this arena. Everything discussed so far rests on a single foundation: the ability to produce weapons at scale. China currently accounts for more than 1/3 of total global manufacturing output, a figure expected to reach 45% by 2030. The US system, built around private defense contractors optimizing for profit rather than output, simply cannot compete. In the American system, it's far more lucrative to develop a $50 million precision system over a decade than to mass-produce $50,000 drones at volume. The result is a bloated procurement process that delivers too little, too slowly. According to US military analysts, America would exhaust its critical missile stockpiles, including Tomahawk cruise missiles and interceptor rockets, within the first week of a conflict with China. Those missiles would need to be replenished across the Pacific, from factories that either don't exist or lack the capacity to respond in wartime. China faces no such constraint. It can direct its entire productive capacity, nearly half of global manufacturing, toward the war effort without interruption, replenishing munitions a few miles from where they're being used. Here's something that doesn't get discussed enough. You can't build advanced weapons without rare earth minerals. Elements like gallium, germanium, and tungsten are essential components of the radar systems, guidance technology, and electronics that power modern military hardware. China controls approximately 60 to 70% of global rare earth extraction and an even higher share of refining capacity. The US, over decades, quietly offshored this entire supply chain to China when the two countries were still on friendly terms. Now, as relations have deteriorated, China has begun restricting exports of these critical materials to US defense contractors. The result: weapons systems being delivered incomplete, production lines stalling, massive delays across multiple US military programs. Building an alternative supply chain isn't a matter of months. Mining experts estimate it could take a decade or more, requiring new extraction facilities, environmental permits, and critically, an entirely new generation of trained metallurgical engineers. This isn't something you fix in the run up to a conflict. The final reason is perhaps the least quantifiable. But historically, it has decided more wars than any weapon system. China would be fighting a defensive war. Its soldiers would be defending their homeland, their coastline, their people. That context produces a fundamentally different level of commitment than asking an American soldier to fight a war of choice, thousands of miles away, against a country that poses no direct threat to American soil. Beyond motivation, there's the question of institutional seriousness. Chinese officers operating advanced naval and missile systems are required to hold advanced degrees in their technical fields. Fitness and readiness standards are rigorous. The institution is built around the specific mission of defeating the United States in a regional conflict. Any U.S. administration attempting to wage this war would also face enormous domestic opposition. A military draft, which would almost certainly be necessary for a conflict of this scale, would be politically catastrophic. You don't have to take any of this from me. The head of the U.S. Armed Forces has stated publicly that the Pentagon has a perfect record in its war games against China. They lose every single time. That's the internal assessment of the most powerful military in history. The uncomfortable truth is that geography, manufacturing, rare earth control, hypersonic technology, drone capacity, naval shipbuilding, and will to fight all point in the same direction. A conventional war with China, fought near its coastline, is not a war the United States is designed to win. The real question isn't whether the US could beat China in a fight. It's why anyone is seriously considering a conflict that serves no clear national interest, risks catastrophic escalation, and that America's own war planners have concluded they would lose. War with China would not be a demonstration of American strength. It would be the end of it. And we are going to keep following it closely. If this kind of analysis is what you come here for, subscribe. We do this every week without the noise. And tell me in the comments, do you think America can recover? And on what timeline? I'll see you in the next one.